This episode is brought to you by Whitaker Garage Doors, your one-stop shop for all things garage doors, proudly based in Peekskill, New York. Your home is a direct reflection of your personal style, and let's face it, your garage doors are the first thing people see when they pull up your driveway. Whether you're looking for the timeless charm of a classic carriage house door or the clean, sleek look of a basic wood finish, Whitaker Garage Doors offers traditional options for every taste and budget. I can personally vouch for their incredible service. When I had my own garage doors done, I was blown away by their timeliness, professionalism, and overall respect for their clients. Jonathan, Cassara, and their entire team are top-notch, and they really go the extra mile to ensure you're happy with the final result. So if you're in the market for a new garage door or need some repairs, give them a call or find them on Instagram at Whitaker_doors. Don't forget to tell them you're a friend of Dave's over at the No Snooze podcast. Whitaker Doors. You won't regret it. Now, back to the Epi. Adversity? Bring it. The struggle? I welcome it. Snooze on life? Never that. I am Dave Regina, and this is the No Snooze podcast. Come on. Welcome back, No Snooze Podcast, episode 224. As always, I'm in the booth with a beautiful three. We have Claudio, the voice, Valenzuela, Dana, Carretta-Stein, and I am Dave, the body, Regina. Dana Carretta-Stein is a licensed trauma therapist, entrepreneur, and founder of Peaceful Living Counseling and the EMDR coach. She specializes in EMDR and trauma-informed care, helping high performers break generational patterns, manage mental load, and truly heal, not just look put together. Alongside her husband, Eric, Dana juggles parenting, business building, and life with humor and purpose. She's here to challenge hustle culture and teach you how to succeed without burning out or losing yourself in the process. Dana, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
And you were timely, too. We pulled up right at the exact same time, right?
Same time. Just
you know what's crazy? I don't know. Like, I do a little 15-minute meditation.
Yeah.
I knew what car you drove.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't want to say it the second you got out because that would have been a little weird, so I'll save it for the podcast to get the real reaction. But how crazy is that?
That's so weird. Listen, when you meditate, clarity is a real thing.
It was bizarre. I mean, the color and everything. I knew it was blue.
I love that.
So wild.
Could have the lottery numbers for later?
Right?
That would be great.
We'll talk about that. Before we get started, just want to shout out my brother, Sean O'Connor. Right? One of the best in the game.
Literally the best.
You guys have been together a long time in terms of business, right?
Yeah, it's been 5 years, I think, now that we've been working together.
Very cool.
And he's just one of the smartest, most genuine, authentic people I know. And it's such an honor to get to work with him. And we nerd out all the time. He's just one of my favorite people.
Good. Yeah, he was on just a couple of weeks ago. We had a great conversation, so excited to have you here today.
For sure.
We were talking on the elevator. You were like, hopefully you're not too hangry, right?
Yeah.
Because I am finishing up my 3-day fast today.
Very brave.
And just to give the listeners an update, I'm really enjoying this process. And it's definitely been a feat of discipline.
For sure.
And my real purpose in doing the fast was more spiritual reasons than health reasons. Yeah. Just wanted an opportunity to get a little bit closer to God. And, I'm definitely feeling that. Today, day 3. I do feel a little bit more emotional. Some emotions are coming up for me, which is ironic that now you're here, right? So I have a therapist here with me to talk about these emotions. But day 2, I was absolutely on fire.
Yeah.
Like I felt so alive, but to the point that I almost let myself down this morning when I opened my eyes and I didn't feel that like fire in me.
Right.
Right? Have you ever done a 3-day fast?
I've done a 2-day fast.
Okay.
I've done 2 days. Yep. And definitely you feel that feeling of biologically, that mobilization, which is we're wired to want to be able to like go hunt. So we get that surge of energy. And then what the body does eventually, if it doesn't get what it's looking for, it starts shutting down. And then we start getting tired and stuff because it's the nervous system kind of hears like, okay, there's no food available. Let's start to like, prepare for death, so to speak.
Yep.
And that's where the drop in the energy comes from. But, food is a technical term as long as we're eating like water, hydrating,
Right.
like protein.
Yeah, I'm doing black coffee, 2 cups a day,
Yep.
along with 2 element packets.
Yep.
Which are not actually breaking the actual fast in terms of health reasons. And for those who are not familiar, it's called autophagy, which is a Greek word for basically your body eating itself, right? So the cells in your body, the thought process behind it is that those cells, the old unhealthy cells, are dying off and rejuvenating new ones, right? So that's why the process of fasting, I think, for health reasons, is so incredible.
Yeah,
but
it's like
definitely
cell
a fun
regeneration.
journey.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm going to go a 4th day.
Yep.
We'll see.
See how you feel.
But
It's
as
all
I was
listen
saying to you,
your
I'm
body.
like, how often am I really doing this? And if I'm already here, maybe I should just go into that 4th day and kind of push the limits a little bit.
Well, it's all about that attunement to your body. That's something I'm so big on in my work, in my personal life, is listening to your body. And your body will tell you if you can keep going or if it's time to get nourishment so
Yep.
you can keep going.
I like that.
Yeah.
So typically I start by going backwards of how you got there. But I have something on my mind that I definitely just have to
Do it.
get out.
Yeah.
And it's going to bring out the expert in you.
Okay.
Right. But it's something that I've been thinking about, and now in this fast with the word feelings, I'm kind of relating it back to my daughter, and she's almost 5 years old, and I've been guilty of telling her to be good at times. Right. When she is maybe struggling or she's crying or maybe lashing out a little bit. But essentially what I'm doing, if I really process this, is I'm telling her not to express her true feelings.
Yeah.
And then I kind of believe that behavior over time will probably lead to significant trauma like all of us adults have.
Right.
So by suppressing our feelings, I guess my question is, do you end up like blocking that energy flow within the body?
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Feelings buried alive never die. Right. So that when we have an emotional reaction to something in our experiences, that energy has to go somewhere. I always use the analogy of like a car. So if, whoever, when we were 16, we would drop neutral bombs in our car, and it was really funny until the transmission broke, right? So like you would rev the engine, and the car wouldn't go anywhere. And eventually the transmission breaks. So the body's the same way. If you keep getting these surges of energy, but they don't have a healthy, accepted outlet, it's going to get internalized. And that just keeps building up and building up. It's kind of like a pressure cooker, and that eventually is just, you're either going to explode or implode. And disease and, the body starting to, inflammation, all of that, it's all connected to how much we feel our feelings and let ourselves sit with them and accept them.
Yeah, I'm happy I asked that because, it happened the other day where I was able to at least catch myself. And I called myself because I watched a parent do the wrong thing. So I was like, haha, you just did it wrong, so I'm going to do it right now. So their child started like screaming and crying, and they were like, hey, be good, be good, be good.
Yeah.
My daughter was on the monkey bars, the monkey bars, and she actually fell off and she started crying. And I just grabbed her and I said, baby, it's okay. And she's been falling off the monkey bars a lot because she's like really obsessed with like, getting to the end.
Right.
And one day she's able to do it. The next day she's maybe not as strong. So she's just doing it every day. Sometimes she naps right before we go to the park and her hands aren't as strong.
Yeah.
And she's getting so frustrated.
Oh, the sleepy hands.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
and she's like,
yeah.
why can't I do it? Why can't I do it? So she started
Your body's
crying.
not awake yet,
And I was
yeah.
like, it's okay, babe. Just, let's work through this. Tell me what you're feeling. And she was like, I'm so upset.
Yeah.
And I don't want to talk. I said, it's okay. Tell me what you're feeling.
Right.
But as we started doing that, I kind of thought to my like childhood. And I'm like, I don't think I had the opportunity to really do that when I was growing up.
It was not that generation. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Our parents didn't know what they don't know. Right. But yeah, just sitting with her and what are you feeling? And whatever feeling she feels is appropriate. There's no wrong answer. That's the fun thing about feelings is that, it's like when people like laugh at funerals, like, cause it's really, they're uncomfortable, but it's It's just a feeling. You can't be wrong.
People are doing that? They're laughing at funerals?
Oh, you never uncomfortably laughed at a funeral? You go in, you're like, I'm so uncomfortable that I have to
I don't
laugh.
look at the body and be like, haha.
It's almost like I'm so awkward and uncomfortable that I'm laughing. And then you start thinking like really screwed up shit that makes you start laughing in your head. Yeah.
That's so good.
It's like a church laugh.
Yeah. Wow. So I'll be fully transparent. Let's talk now.
Yeah.
I love therapy.
Yeah.
Therapy changed my life.
I love hearing that.
Truthfully, I was in a really, really dark place, mentally, emotionally, physically. I looked okay, but I was doing a lot of the wrong things. I got married young, divorced now in a very healthy relationship. But I was, in the clubs doing things that I shouldn't have been doing.
Right.
And my first experience with therapy was probably when I was 15 or 16 years old. And it was actually with a family member who I was not getting along with at the time. And the therapist basically looked at me, listened to a pile of garbage that this individual said, told me that I have anger issues when it was the complete opposite of what that family member was saying was the actual truth.
Right.
And the therapist completely sided with that family member, told me I had anger issues and to basically like get lost.
Yeah,
I was like,
anger's not the
I'm
problem.
never going to a therapist
Yeah.
ever again.
Right. And those are
Right?
the horror stories that we hear all the time. And that's like, Sean and I, that's the work we're always trying to undo. Because
Yes.
that is the common misconception of therapy.
And I
anger
did-
wasn't the problem.
Yeah, I did now, right? Obviously, I went back because my life came crumbling and I was like, all right, I have to do this. So now I couldn't disagree more with how I felt.
Right.
I found somebody that works for me and, I'm able to kind of work through my issues and also see like I'm a tangible guy. You got to give me something tangible that I can work on.
Right.
So when I met a therapist that was able to like implement strategy and not just talk to me about, well, how are you feeling today?
Right.
Personally, I know that's part of the game with therapy, but
Part of it, but not all.
it doesn't work for me.
And
Right.
that's what's important.
Right.
Because therapy is an individualized experience. No two people, like even for me as a therapist, I'm not the same therapist for every single one of my clients.
Right.
It's about what their goals are, what they want to get out of therapy. It's being able to attune to their needs and what helps them grow.
Good. So I just wanted to say that to you. So you actually know where I am at.
Yeah.
I'm somebody who now loves therapy, but I wasn't always that way.
I can't blame you
Yep.
because that 15-year-old, the issue there is that the therapist was seeing the anger as the problem. The anger was the solution, right? People always identify anger as it's a bad thing, but it's actually really healthy. And when it gets really big, they blame the kid instead of, why is this kid so angry? What's going on in their life? That reaction wouldn't be so big if there wasn't something bigger going on here. And then to listen. Anger's a survival strategy.
Wish I knew that earlier.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you though, how did you, what led you to become a trauma therapist and eventually start the work that you're doing?
I mean, it's kind of like how everybody wants to be a therapist. We first say like, well, I want to help people. Like there's the reason why we became therapists and then the real reason why we became therapists, right? I did want to help people, but the reality was subconsciously, I didn't know how to handle my own feelings. And what we always do subconsciously is we try to help other people with theirs because we can't help ourselves. So that's probably what subconsciously drove me to be a therapist. On paper, it's my dad had terrible anxiety and he was the most amazing father despite that. And he was compassionate and he was loving and full of anxiety. And he had so much struggle in his life. He lost his father when he was younger. His first daughter, Caroline, who my daughter is named after, passed away during childbirth. So he just had a lot of heartbreak. And I saw how that affected him. And, I couldn't save my dad, so I tried to save everybody else, apparently. But then as I got into it, I'm a very big believer of like, there's no coincidences in life. And, God has a plan and it's what gets us here. And I very much went with it and just kept through my work with clients and learning more about myself through the process got me more and more into all of this. And it was when I first got my license and I was a brand new baby, like fresh-faced, and I was working at a group practice in Connecticut for Barbara Heffernan, who's my mentor and brilliant mind, and I love her. And she's like, why don't you do the EMDR training? And I was, what's that? never heard of it. They didn't teach about it in grad school yet. No idea. So I, went to the training like we all do when we're newly graduated. Let's get all the trainings and do all the things. And I really took to it. And like understanding more, like the basic training is really, the mechanics of it and how it works. But it's a rabbit hole that you go down and then
Share what it stands for.
Oh, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. Whoa. It's a lot of vowels.
EMDR. Do that again. What is
eye
it?
movement desensitization and reprocessing.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
It's basically based on, there's a lot of like computer language with EMDR. I don't know why, and I'm not a big fan of that. It's based on adaptive information processing, which is basically fancy terms for your brain and your body's going to try to maintain homeostasis regardless. So we want to try to find adaptive information to link to that will help you discharge the stored energy you've been trapped inside because that experience isn't processed. So, so I did the training, and then you go down that rabbit hole of really seeing how our experiences really shape who we are and how trauma can really we use the word trauma, but it's overused sometimes, but how our experiences and our support system can really impact whether or not somebody's affected by something long term.
Is that the definition of trauma?
Yeah.
That is, okay.
Basically, trauma is what happens inside of us as a result of something that happened to us and who or who not was there for us.
Okay. And now, obviously, somebody who's not a therapist, myself, before I got into therapy, when I hear trauma, I'm thinking like car accidents and death and the craziest things. And that's not necessarily the case. It's really just an experience that you may have had in your life, and now the longing effects of that experience. Right.
It's basically something becomes traumatic when it exceeds your nervous system's ability to cope. Because when we think about it, we can call it traumatic stress. Right? Because stress in and of itself is not bad. Eustress, EUSTRESS, is healthy stress, and that's the kind of stress that builds resilience over time. Anybody who trains and works out knows that like you're putting stress on your muscles when you're working out, and that's what helps them grow. When you overdo it, then something gets pulled and you get hurt, and then you need a longer recovery period. But that's exactly how our body is. So distress is when it exceeds our ability to cope. And if we don't have the proper support or the proper downtime to be able to heal, it will stay trapped in the nervous system.
So as you're saying that, I'm recalling like into my, I guess, when I was a child, there were many times that I would, be in, I don't know if it's an argument or around maybe, heightened language and some arguing that's going on, and a lump in my throat.
Body's talking to you.
A big lump in my throat, and I remember that feeling for like a very long time. When it would happen, that was kind of the trigger that would happen for me.
Right.
So I'm just thinking on that, like, wow, that definitely is some level of trauma from childhood. But it's hard to like remember that type of stuff too.
Well, we will try to block out that which is not. If we don't have a way to cope with those memories, we'll block them out because we're going to avoid anything that's going to make us implode or explode. Yeah.
Do you think? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say that lump.
Yeah.
What did your body want to do? Hearing everybody around you screaming, did you just want to be like, ah?
Probably wanted to get out of there.
Yeah, fight or flight, right? You either fight, that scream, a punch, or get the hell out.
And then I developed Crohn's disease. God damn it.
Yeah.
See?
Body.
Big link to stress.
Huge link to inflammation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Don't worry, we're in healing.
We're here. We're all good. We're not mad.
I have a question, though. Do you think that therapy is for everybody?
No. No. It can be, but it's not for everybody. It's not for people who aren't. Well, let me take a step back. What kind of therapy?
I would say going to a professional, or even if it's a group, right? Because I see this in our men's leadership group. Like a lot of the men that are in there, they utilize our group as therapy, a form of therapy.
Sure.
Right? Which it basically is, because you're going to a group of individuals and you're kind of exposing yourself and talking about things that are really shared experiences amongst other men.
Absolutely.
So in terms of therapy, I guess I just really mean talking to somebody who's like non-judgmental about a situation, and then also maybe providing you with some level of like feedback regarding the conversation that's had. Is that a terrible definition of therapy?
That's a great definition.
Let's go.
That's
the
a
big
great
therapist.
definition of the best kind of therapy.
Okay.
I hate to say this at the lack of my profession, but there's a lot of crazy therapists out there who don't do that. And it's scary sometimes. There are therapists who are really judgmental and really, they pathologize people and look at like symptoms and try to fix them. And then there's people who don't really want to work on anything. Like, you know, having a place like your men's leadership group where you can be open and honest and get helpful feedback, that's beautiful. Some people aren't there yet in their journey. Mm-hmm. And not a disrespect to them, but just they're not ready yet. So there are different ways people can get ready, you know, whether it's their own self-help or seeing a therapist who understands that, to not push them, but be there for them, be willing to be patient and like not collude with their avoidance. It's like a very delicate balance of being like that optimal kind of level for as a therapist, to not push somebody, but to not, you know, sit back and not do anything.
Okay, so for people who have never been to therapy, what would be one thing that you say to them?
One thing, if they've never been to therapy.
Or that you would want them to know?
Try a couple different, like interview different therapists. If you have one consultation with someone and it wasn't a good fit or you didn't vibe with them, that doesn't mean all therapy is bad. Just find another person. It's like, you know, we don't always, some people do, you don't marry the first person you date. And with therapy, it's really sacred. Like, you're really being so vulnerable. So you want to find a person who you can be vulnerable enough in the beginning. You're not going to feel that like ability to be super vulnerable right away. It's a 15-minute consult. But you want it to be someone who you know is not going to, that you click with, that you won't, avoid stuff with. They won't help you avoid. You know they'll push you, but see what's out there. Everyone's allowed to have an opinion. Mm-hmm.
So this piece is a little bit uncomfortable, if I'm going to be transparent.
Go for it. I love it.
What I didn't like about finding my therapist that was going to work with me was that for them to really get a true understanding of me, I did need to go deep. And that probably takes like 3 sessions. And I remember going through 3 sessions with somebody that I kind of didn't, really vibe with, but I wanted them to at least have a full understanding. And I can see that people are like, oh God, like I went to somebody, I finally opened up, and now this isn't the person for me.
Right.
So there is a give and take with therapy, kind of like a dating scene. That's a very good example of it. Like, you do have to put yourself out there and really dive all into the process to then be able to really decipher if somebody's going to work for you. But that was the one thing that I was like, God, I got to start all the way from the beginning again.
Yeah. And we in our paperwork, it says, we do 15-minute consults with our clients, but then we say it takes 1 to 3 sessions for us to say, so you're right on the money with that 3 sessions. See, you can do this. You're pretty good.
How do I get a license? Sign me up.
Such a couple good programs.
There we go.
But we say it takes 1 to 3 sessions to really, for the therapist to see if I'm the right person to help you, and for you to see if, I'm the right person to help you. So it has to be a good fit for both people. For all we know, like sometimes as therapists, someone comes in after 3 sessions, it's triggering the therapist's own stuff that they haven't really worked through yet. And okay, for the betterment of this client, I'm not going to take them on because I haven't healed that yet, and I don't want that to get taken out on them. So that's why being self-aware as a therapist is also very important.
I like that. What would you say are some myths about healing or therapy that if you could just speak to somebody who's believing that, you would debunk for them?
That it's not easy or comfortable, and it's not linear. So a lot of people will think like with anything, like, okay, it gets better and better and better, and it doesn't work that way. It can get a little better and then get really uncomfortable and then do great, and that it can go up and down. And just because you've worked through something also doesn't mean that you're not going to get impacted by something else. You're human. So no matter how much work you've done, we're still taking hits out there all day long as human beings, right? So there's always the need to reach out for support at any moment in your life. It's not like, oh, why do I have to go back to therapy? Like, I thought I fixed this. There's nothing to be fixed. Having support is the solution. Mm-hmm. It's not like what makes the solution happen. It is the solution.
Yeah. So I did, and again, I go all in.
Love that.
So I wish
everyone was
for
like that.
7 years, once a week. Whereas now I am in I call it a maintenance phase.
Yeah, that's what we call it. Love that.
Are you serious?
Yes, you got all the lingo. This is perfect. Yeah.
So, well, it's really just what I was thinking. I'm like, wow, and his name is Mike. So I call him up. And you know what Mike tells me? He's retiring.
Oh.
And I'm going to need to find somebody else.
A little heartbreak.
And I said, my journey might end here, my brother.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I can unload the way that I've unloaded.
Right.
So I'm putting this out into the atmosphere that I will be looking for a new therapist.
There you go. I know a couple good ones.
Yeah, so we'll definitely need to talk more.
Yeah.
But, that was, for me, I would say the first 3 years, I definitely really looked forward to it. I would leave work and that would be my lunch break. And it became like a part of just my life that I was seeing so much fruit from that hour that I was putting in.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's hard is going in and being honest about the things that you're not doing right in your life.
That's huge. That's huge. And I think I love that you're speaking to that because it doesn't happen all the time. And a lot of people, if you can't feel safe enough to be honest with your therapist, let's figure that out together. What's getting kicked up that you're not feeling safe being honest, because you're the one who's going to benefit or not benefit from being honest.
And now, why do you think people struggle with that part so much? I know a lot of individuals that go to therapy and they're still, I don't want to call them liars, but, lying about maybe a certain aspect of their life.
Yeah. Shame.
Shame.
Shame. Shame and vulnerability go hand in hand. Brene Brown talks a lot about it. She calls herself the shame researcher.
Did she write Daring Greatly?
She sure did.
Let's go.
She sure did.
Yeah.
She's wonderful. But shame is actually, neurobiologically, is a life-preserving emotion that it's not one of the ones that we're hardwired for, but it's life-preserving in the sense that if I feel shame about something, ideally speaking, it will stop me from doing that thing again. Sometimes in people who've experienced chronic trauma, they keep repeating the behavior, even though it induces shame, because they're trying to get a different result that will alleviate that shame, but not looking at the shame as, oh, there's certain things we can feel shame about. It's appropriate. And then there are things that we feel shame about that are not appropriate, like things that weren't our fault and stuff, a lot of stuff from childhood. So once we can unpack that, what is appropriate shame, what is not, that makes the vulnerability easier to bring up.
Is there ever a point as a therapist, and I'm kind of relating this back to my one-on-one coaching stuff, I get to a place sometimes where I'm working with an individual and we're working through the same problem over and over again. Mm-hmm. And then we make a little progress and then we kind of revert, right?
Yep.
But it does get to a point to where I almost feel that if the individual is continuing to do the same thing over and over and over and over again,
right,
that maybe it's not just the best fit and that it is okay to kind of remove myself as a coach. So would you say it's okay, or is it practice to kind of remove yourself from a client if, say, they have a gambling problem, right? And, they come to you and they come clean and they're like, listen, I just went to the casino and I feel really bad about it. I don't want to do it again. And they don't do it again for a period of 3 months.
Right.
And then they do it again. You as a therapist are probably look, you made progress, so let's focus on that progress, but also let's figure out why you started to gamble again.
Right.
Right? But now if they continue to gamble over and over and over again, how would you handle something like that?
Explore the trigger. What is the trigger? So that urge that comes up to start engaging in that, and this is where we bring up EMDR, when that trigger occurs, what's the belief you have about yourself? Now float back to an earlier time in your life where you had that same thought. What feeling did you have? Sometimes the thought won't connect us to the past experience, and we go into what's called the float back. So we're connecting present day triggers to past life experiences, not past life like lives before, but earlier life experiences. And then we do what's the memory hunt. So the float back in EMDR is, we'll say, I don't want you to go into the details of the memory, but if it were like the name of a movie, what would you call it? How old were you? Okay, now float back earlier. Is there an earlier time they had that same thought, that same feeling? And you start making that list of, we call them potential targets. And then once we have that list, we start putting together a treatment plan. And then what are the triggers for each of these memories? So we have like your present day triggers. That's usually what people come into therapy for, is like, this is what's happening present day. But if we're only focusing on the present, it's a Band-Aid, right? Okay, let's do some deep breaths, which is very helpful. But if we're not connecting it, we're just going to, 3 months, right? 3 months is going to start gambling again. Let's go back and see what that's connected to. And then we do the resourcing. So let's create some ways to tolerate distress, because when we start doing trauma processing, it's uncomfortable, right? It's not like, oh, this is going to be great. It's going to be a big sign of relief. At first, it's really uncomfortable because you're facing that shame and all that stuff head on. So let's come up with resources that help you feel grounded and present. Mm-hmm. And then let's put together this experience. So we break down the components of memory, image, thought, feeling, sensation in the body. And there's rating scales and stuff built in. I'm being very general in my description, but
that's good.
And then now focus on that memory and follow back and forth. And we'll have a light bar, audio tappers, buzzers. And when that experience is happening, I don't want you to say anything. I want you to just notice what comes up. Just be an observer to what's happening in this moment. And then when I turn them off, I'm just going to ask you, what'd you notice? Quick, whatever that notice is, and then we go back into the bilateral movement. And we keep doing that until we get a decrease in what's called the subjective units of disturbance, like computer language comes back. And we're desensitizing the level of disturbance associated with that experience. And that's that desensitization part. And then linking it to adaptive information is the reprocessing part. Like, oh, it wasn't my fault. I was only 5. I wasn't responsible for keeping everyone around me safe. Like, go with that. And then that positive belief about oneself kind of spontaneously emerges. And then we install it, meaning with bilateral, we make that more ingrained in the nervous system with repetition. And then we do the future template. Okay, so now picture like a future scenario that could come up in the future where you might get that same trigger. And now, after we process this, now how do you see yourself thinking, feeling, acting? How do you see yourself handling that? Imagine that. And follow again. So we're installing the future desired outcome. It's like it's like exposure therapy for a future thing. So you're almost like, once your brain already has a frame of reference, it's easier to build on. So that makes that future template part, makes it really helpful to your nervous system to encode like that confidence of, yeah, I can handle that the way that I want to. And then we take note of, okay, so now go out into the world. Notice if you get triggered. Right? A lot of it's like EMDR, we have keeping track of things. I want you to notice, keep a log of your triggers. And all of a sudden clients come back like, holy crap, but it didn't happen. How about that? Yeah.
Wow, this is a different level of therapy for sure. And I'm so happy that we're diving into this because even for me, right, like I would say like I have experience in the therapy world, but all the things you're saying, I'm like trying to get closer to listen even more because how did that feel for you, CV? Look and see. Right? It really is because it made like I think I like a journey, right?
Absolutely.
And the process to get there.
Right.
And this approach really does that.
Mm-hmm. And it's all the client, like your nervous system is the agent of change, not the therapist. And that's what I love about this approach because, some people are like, oh, thank you. You helped me so much. I'm like, I didn't, it was you. I'm the conductor keeping the train on the track and a witness, an empathic witness to your experience, to your journey. I'm honored that you're trusting me to be on the journey with you. That's big for me. But it's your nervous system that's doing the work.
You're providing the tools.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Which is well explained. I like that. So you specialize in burnout? Mm-hmm. You do?
Yes.
Okay. So forget the listeners. Talk to me.
Yeah, it takes one to know one, right? Yeah.
What would you say burnout like really looks like, and how can people recognize it in themselves before it's too late?
I love this, and it actually goes on perfectly with. I have another book coming out called The Burnout Survival Guide. It's called Burnout as Fuck.
Oh wow!
But it can look different in every person because everybody handles their stress differently. But you'll notice a difference in someone when all of a sudden they're not themselves. Like all of the behavior that was typical for them, if they're usually more outgoing and stuff, they start shutting down, withdrawing. They start engaging in behavior or substances or things to like help them continue to overfunction. Changing in sleep habits, eating habits, all of those things are signs that that person's not handling and adapting to stress well.
Let me take you further. How do you detect if it's burnout or a bad day or a bad week per se, right? Because your feelings aren't always going to be there. But
Right.
for me, like I'm able to kind of identify now, this is a problem for me.
Yep.
Because I think I'm at a place mentally where I'm very strong. And regardless of what's going on in my head, I will still continue to show up and do the action that I know is going to move the needle forward in my life.
Right.
But I don't think that's always the best approach because I'm not always on top of my game, and I can feel that. But I guess how do you like decipher if it's really burnout or really just like, you know, a bad emotional temporary time?
I think this is where pulling on like old school therapy stuff is helpful, doing like a biopsychosocial.
What?
A biopsychosocial, yeah. What's going on with you
This is social hour?
biologically? Yeah. What's going on with you biologically, psychologically, socially?
Okay.
Because there's so many factors that can impact someone's emotional state. Sometimes it's not always a psychological stress. I know when I'm getting sick, I can feel it in I'm like, why am I so like depressed? And because my body's trying to get me to lay the fuck down because it's trying to recover from something. So we want to know what's going on with someone biologically, make sure they're physically well. What's going on with them psychologically? What kind of thoughts are they having in reaction to like what's going on? Like, you know, it's my fault. I'm not good enough. Or is that mental toughness still there of like, I'm doing the best that I can? And what's going on with them socially? Human beings are hardwired for connection. The UCLA loneliness study showed that human beings who scored higher on a loneliness scale had a 20-year less life expectancy, which is like we are social creatures. So what's going on in your life socially? Do you have support systems? Are there, you know, your men's group? What support systems do you have to help you function? Because we all can't carry everything alone. We're not supposed to. So we look at that whole picture. That can determine what if you're just having a bad day or if it's burnout. Burnout is going to be more chronic, where you're going to see it's not just like, oh, you were doing fine, and then one day you're crap, and then the next day you're back at it. You'll see a decline in functioning or over-functioning.
One of my recent conversations with my therapist, I was kind of talking to him about this, and I'm like, I feel like I'm, you know, diving in head first and trying to just empower and influence and encourage so many people. And he said, stop right there. And he said, influence brings insecurity. And I was like, well, why is that? And he was basically like, well, because you're so focused on like pouring into others and your focus is lifting people up, you're almost forgetting about yourself and your needs.
Right.
And that in turn is bringing an insecurity in you because you're not able to kind of unload the way people are like unloading onto you. So you're like
re-traumatizing yourself.
Yeah, like, so I got to stop that, right?
Yeah, that 15-year-old who was angry and no one cared about how he felt. You only care about everyone else and how they feel and help them, but you continue to ignore that 15-year-old. That's re-traumatizing to that 15-year-old. It's a disintegration of self. So a lot of it is reconnecting with all of the parts of yourself. We all have parts, and it doesn't mean we have multiple personalities or anything. We all have like an inner child. We all have a rebellious teenager and an adult self. So connecting with those parts of ourselves, that's healing. To be able to say that my happiness, my ability to feel successful isn't dependent on helping somebody else. I'm helping other people because it's what I love to do, but I won't crumble if that person doesn't accept my help.
I'm processing here.
Yeah.
I'm forgetting about the listeners. Are you looking to elevate your brand with captivating visuals and immersive sound? Look no further than the home of the No Snooze podcast, Kai Visions Productions, your go-to destination for cutting-edge audio and video production. At Kai Visions, we don't just create content, we create experiences that leave a lasting impact. From podcasts, YouTube variety shows, sleek corporate videos, to attention-grabbing promotional campaigns, our team of experts is dedicated to turning your vision into reality. Choose Kai Visions for a production experience like no other. It's time to make your brand known. Contact us today at kaivisions@gmail.com or find us on Instagram at Kai Visions. Kai Visions Productions, where audio-visual excellence meets innovation. Now, back to the Epi. What would you say are some practical steps that people can take to start healing, even if they're feeling overwhelmed in life?
There's a bunch of different things to do. I mean, one of the books I wrote, the EMDR Therapy Progress Journal, I would say it's not for people who are only in EMDR. It's all the stuff we're talking about, it's all in there of how experiences shape the brain. So if individuals are like looking to kind of start to figure things out before they get into therapy, and that's a great place to start because it's written in my very ADHD language of my neurodivergent self. So it's got analogies in there and stuff. That's how I've survived my entire childhood to understand information. And keep looking inside of yourself. You know, if you're going to therapy isn't talking about everything else outside of you. It's talking about what's going on inside of you because of what's going on outside of you. Like my husband made a face and my stomach turned. Why do I do that? Why do I react that way? Talk
to me a little more about that. I want to know.
Yeah. So that's when you start getting curious about your own responses to things, that's healing. Because it's not the other person. You can't control the other person. The other person is just a trigger, right? But what is going on inside of you is where you go, I wonder why I react that way. I wonder why. And it doesn't mean it's good or bad. It's just you want to get curious. Sometimes it's, I probably got that way because as a kid, it made perfect sense for me to recoil and protect myself. But now in my relationship with my partner, they're a safe person. I don't have to protect myself from them. But that old protective habit is going to come out because that's how the nervous system works. We're going to always try to protect ourselves. And if the trigger is a close personal relationship, our partners that closeness mimics the closeness we have with our parents growing up. That's why we seek out partners that are like our parents subconsciously.
So this might be completely different, but is it the same if you're getting triggered by like other people's behaviors? For example, I get very triggered by like loud chewing, certain smells. Sometimes like my daughter and my girlfriend, they kind of brush their teeth and spit really loud into the sink. Yeah. And I'm like, why are you guys doing that? And Katie's like, why does it matter to you? And I'm like, but it like irks me. Is this a therapy issue or is this like
it could be multiple things. So one is if it's anxiety, right? When we're anxious and our nervous system is in survival mode, all of our senses are heightened. And that's a survival response because we need to acutely attune to our environment to be hypervigilant so we can hear danger coming. I can hear that door open. I can like feel someone walking behind me who might be trying to kill me. So if you have traumatic stress trapped in your nervous system, all those sounds and things you're going to be more sensitive to them.
Do you think there's a correlation here? I would be very transparent. And my mother and I, we laugh about this now, right? And she was actually, she was addicted to drugs and alcohol for the first 28 years of my life. She's sober 6+ years now. I shout out Mom every opportunity that I can. So she's one of my best friends.
Yep.
But we laugh because when I was a child growing up, I would be outside dribbling my basketball. And she would come outside and be like, stop dribbling your ball so loud. So then I started getting into a place to where I would shoot this basketball and run as fast as I can to catch it before it hit the floor.
To keep her comfortable.
Now, what it did was made me a really good shooter. Like, seriously, right? Because I was so focused on like making sure that it didn't hit the rim, it went through the net, I got there before. So that piece was a positive thing. But I've been relating this all back, and like maybe there's a huge correlation to this because I was kind of petrified to even dribble a basketball outside of my own house because I didn't want to disturb anybody inside.
Yeah, because sound is I'm going to get yelled at. It makes sense.
It does.
Makes sense to you?
Yeah, it does. 100%.
Yeah.
Claudio's like, wow, we're going through real therapy.
This is where I always say, like, welcome to therapy.
Right. Yeah, but see, like things like that, like if you're not open to even diving or making the correlation yourself, it's tough to get the benefits of therapy. But when you're able to do that, I feel so like, all right, I'm not crazy. Like maybe it is me.
And that's the thing.
Know?
It's when you can look at yourself as I'm not crazy and it's me. That's because no one's crazy. Our nervous systems adapted to. I know, please. I'm the worst one. I'm Sicilian. It's a problem.
Me too.
Yes. But our nervous systems responded to our environment. So that sensitivity to sound made sure that you didn't get screamed at, get your ass kicked, or lose a connection with your caregiver. Because as kids, we are reliant on our parents. No matter how functional or non-functional we are completely helpless as kids. And we need them for food, clothing, shelter, survival. So we're going to do anything in our power to maintain that connection, meaning dismissing our own needs if it means keeping a connection with them. So that makes sense. The hypervigilance makes so much sense. And then when you could see that, you go, oh, I'm not crazy. You also then time orient yourself and time orient that younger you. Oh, that time is over now. Look around. Where are we right now? And see this through the eyes of your younger you. Did we have this house back then? No. And this is where we start facilitating co-consciousness. Because you could know about your inner child, but if your inner child doesn't know about you, we don't have co-consciousness. Because back then you didn't have a caring, capable adult. You do now, and that person is you. But if your inner you doesn't know you're there, they're going to continue to feel unsafe. So facilitating that integration, that co-consciousness, helps time orient that younger you to say, we're safe now. Those survival patterns, we don't need them anymore. We don't have to be so hypervigilant to sound because, my daughter chewing, I'm safe while she's chewing.
And
I'm
gulping.
not going to get yelled at.
Oh my God.
I know.
The gulping is crazy.
Drives me crazy too. Sometimes it's just like you just have sensitive ears. And
then what's crazy is I know I gulp,
Yep.
but it doesn't bother me when I do it. But if I hear her, I'm like, oh my God.
Also stimulates the vagus nerve when you gulp. It might actually help you feel better.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, gargling.
But
helps.
I almost feel nuts because I am like, why am I being like this?
Yeah.
But it's so triggering for me.
But answer the question, why am I being like that? Answer that. I wonder why I'm being like that. Just get curious. Curiosity is the path. That's how you get to know yourself on a deeper level.
All right, let's talk about feeling lost and being able to kind of reconnect. I hear this a lot, but when someone says, I don't know who I am anymore, where should that person start?
Where do you want to be? Who do you want to be? Sometimes we're not who we are anymore, right? We're just talking about those old patterns, like that sensitivity to sounds. You don't need that anymore. Who do you want to be? And it's like asking the questions that are, depending on the person's age, your authentic adult self. Because sometimes, we're not who we were, but now we have the chance to be what we want to become, if that makes sense.
So on the coaching side of things, right, I deal with some negative-minded individuals. And when they basically say that to me, I don't know who I am anymore, or I don't like who I am, I'm like, okay, well, paint me the worst picture. I meet them where they are. Like if they're negative, paint the worst picture for me. Like tell me where exactly in your life where you don't want to be.
Right.
Make that for me. And now obviously I know that you want the opposite of that. Right. So even if you're not able to articulate where you really want to be in your life, you're able to tell me where you don't want to be.
Yeah.
And then we start like slowly kind of working through. And I'm seeing a lot of similarities with coaching, obviously.
There's so many similarities. It's
just without a degree in.
Yeah, honestly, there's a lot of therapists who shouldn't be therapists, and there's coaches who would be great therapists, and like, it's all about like being a well self-aware, developed person in order to be able to help others.
I do think for the coaching side of things, my power is my experience.
Absolutely.
Whereas for therapy, I would assume you need to know a little bit more science maybe behind the coaching technique, right? Because I give like action steps and like, things like that.
There's probably so many things that you're doing that have therapy terms that you just don't know that's what you're doing. Like,
I mean, you were dropping
CBT.
some name bombs. I liked, what did you say, the clap back or something?
The float back.
Oh, the float back.
Yeah.
The float back. I like that.
And there's all these different therapy modalities, right? There's CBT, there's DBT, there's
what
EMDR.
What does that mean?
Yeah. Cognitive behavioral therapy.
Okay.
There's dialectical behavior therapy, acceptance and commitment therapy, psychodynamic. There's all these different therapeutic approaches. They all have different language, but if you really unpack it, they all kind of float around the same kind of stuff. You know, cognitive behavioral focuses more on the thoughts. Dialectical behavior focuses on like more of the whole person, of like your experiences and feeling things in your body. EMDR, I say, is like a super therapy because it incorporates all of these evidence-based methods like CBT, like DBT, like psychodynamic into a super therapy, so to speak.
Okay. Talk to my guys for a second.
Yeah.
Self-compassion is something that I can speak from experience is very hard to do as a man.
Absolutely.
What's the role of self-compassion in healing and growth? And why is it so important, especially for men, to be tapping into that?
Well, where do you want to grow? Right? So the thing that's hard, especially for a man, and Sean and I talk about this a lot, it's much harder to be a male in today's society that doesn't validate emotional experiences in the same way we allow women to have their feelings. And, you know, we all are like, oh, equality, this and that. And I'm like, yeah, but equality goes both ways. We have to also let our men be humans. But as a man, you know, like you're expected to provide and be a caretaker and this and that. But you're also a person who needs to be taken care of. So self-compassion is giving yourself what you need so that you can continue to provide and do those things. But it's the, you know, that age-old saying, like, you know, you have to put on your face mask before you help other people put on theirs. That's true whether you're male, female, you know, cisgender, all of that. You're human. So if you don't take care of yourself, who will?
It's so hard for guys because,
so
especially
harder.
like Italians in general.
Oh my God,
right?
hello.
It's
like please.
Stop being soft. You know, don't talk about this. Don't talk about that. Shut
Stop
up.
being so sensitive.
I
I was too sensitive my entire life. As a kid, I was always saying, like, you hurt my feelings. And now, like, I'm one of 10 cousins. And now I'm like, hey, motherfuckers, I made a career out of it.
It's so good.
But it's true, too.
Yeah.
Like, there's, like, you know, to be a man in today's society, like, I love working with men and first responders because it's similar, right? Like, you're trained to be hyper alert. Like literally have to be keeping everybody else safe, keeping everything around you safe. You need rest periods. You need times to chill because you can't stay in that hypervigilance for too long. Otherwise, you're going to start to shut down and burn out. And that's where biologically you slip into what we call dorsal vagal shutdown, which is that preparing for death nervous system response. We don't want that, right? That's not good. So men especially need to take care of themselves. So I love when my husband goes golfing. I'm like, please go, because that's you love it, and you love being there unless he gets, you know, obsessed about like his strokes, whatever it's called,
too
or
many
too
shanks,
high,
you know,
something like that. He's like, oh, well, like I hit a 109. I was like, is that good? Like, he's like, not yet, but I'm getting there. But something that fills your cup and helps you release that is so important for men, because men don't, like, women get I'm not like shitting on my own gender, but like it's easier for women to like, I'm going to go get a manicure, I'm going to go get a massage. Like, you know, it's just more societally accepted. Men need that too. They need time, whatever it is that you find peace in and find stillness and release, and you don't have to overfunction and perform. That's important. That's where self-compassion is, not letting yourself not have to perform.
How do you manage, right?
Yeah.
Running business.
Yeah.
You're obviously married to a great man as well. You spoke very highly of Eric.
Yeah.
Hope to meet him one day as well.
He's a wonderful guy.
You know, raising a family is not easy, and just the whole journey of parenting while you're building business. So how do you personally manage it all? You looking for a therapist?
Stephanie Brandenburg, love
got
her.
it?
She's wonderful. She's great. I have a lot of help. I'm so grateful. Gratitude is something I'm very big on. No matter how shitty stuff gets, I practice a lot of gratitude, and I have a lot of support. My sister-in-law lives 2 blocks away from me, which is the best. My sister lives, 6 minutes from me. My mom comes down every weekend, and I'm also super honest with myself. You know, there are times where it calls for like the hustle, the rev up, but then I also know with the rev up, I'm going to need some downtime. So I know my body. And like, I know my husband puts a bunch of stuff in the calendar, like socially, all these things. I'm like, something's got to come off because that's going to burn me out. I know I can't be on for that many things all weekend. I need time to lay down and not have to do anything. So that's how I manage. I let myself be present. That's really big for me. I'm notorious for not answering my phone, but that's because I don't think we should be attached to them. So everyone's like, oh, you take like 6 days to answer your phone. I'm like, why do you expect me to answer that quickly? That's the real problem, that immediate gratification. So
That's hard. It's hard to do. It really
It's
is.
really hard
Especially
to
as
do.
you're trying to grow, right? Like you want to grow in life, you want to grow in business and all these things. And sometimes for me, I'll speak for me.
Yeah.
When I sit and do nothing, I feel like I'm dying. It's like an addiction to action,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah.
And it's obviously not great, but it also does, like, I'm not trying to justify here.
You work out a lot, right?
Yeah.
What do you do
probably-
without a rest day?
Probably too much. I know, but I don't really rest. You know, that's part of the issue
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
I got this Whoop that does tell me like my recovery and stuff. So I am
Yeah.
monitoring it. But there are days that like I'm in the red and, out of 100, I'm at 22.
Right.
And my body's like, slow down. And then I'm like, nope, more pull-ups.
So why do you ignore your body?
Why what?
Why do you ignore your body?
Yeah, I know. I really don't have an answer for it because you know what it is? I love the way I feel when I'm done working out. So
You
even if
feel
I'm
alive?
struggling to get through the workout, I look forward to like just sitting in the sauna and being like,
So there you go. You're sitting in the sauna.
yeah.
There you go. That's it. You don't have to be like sitting there doing nothing. Like a lot of people think meditation is like, it's not that.
Yep.
It's being present, using your 5 senses to be in whatever you're doing. If you're in the sauna, notice the things you see, feel, taste, touch, all of that. And it doesn't have to be this like profound, like you need to sit on the couch for 3 days. Like I know if there are times where like if I'm like resting, whatever, I get a little nuts if I rest for too long because our bodies are meant to move.
Right.
So as long as you could tell yourself, if your body is telling you to stop, listen to it and saying like, we're not dying. Because you'd say like, I feel like if I sit, I'm
Yeah.
going to die. And that's going to make anybody want to keep going, right? I'm not dying. This is me living. This is me continuing to live. And knowing like, I'm not sitting still forever. Give yourself a structured time to sit. Doesn't
So
have to be
I've
forever.
noticed, and this is how I process things, right? I keep my action the same, but then I pick up like another healthy habit to try to like offset the action. So like I'll get the Whoop to measure data.
Yep.
Started reading my Bible to get closer to God.
Yep.
I stopped drinking in 2024. But meanwhile, my action continues to, like I'm grind all the time. But I do know that I do need some level of like rest period. Because
Is
even
all
when
of
I'm
that
on
good
like,
enough?
what?
Is all of that good enough
Is good enough for what?
for you?
Nothing is good enough for me, if I'm being honest.
Do you feel you're good enough?
No.
There you go. That's where the work is.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. Because that's where we start doing all of those things, is still trying to prove that we're good enough. that
I
we
don't,
aren't
and I'm
enough.
not trying to prove it to anyone. I don't think. Like, I'm not really like out here like thinking about like, oh my God, I need to prove this person, that
No, it's
person.
trying to prove it to yourself.
Yeah.
It's that inner child that's trying to prove it to you. But what does your adult self want to say to that inner child?
I don't know.
You're enough just the way that you are.
So I'm gonna be honest here, right?
Yeah.
That sounds a little foo-foo to me.
Totally.
You know, like, and I
Totally.
think I struggle with that. Like,
Yeah.
oh, am I supposed to look in the mirror like, oh, you're good enough? Like,
Stuart Smalley, I'm good enough, I'm
Like,
smart enough.
And then like, what do I just stop? No, it's like really hard to do, right? And I do believe that I'm good enough, but like, I want to achieve more,
What
right?
if your
Like,
daughter said to you, Daddy, I'm not good enough?
I would sit her down and I would have a conversation as to, why she's not good enough. And I would tell her that she's absolutely good enough. But I wouldn't tell her to like stop doing things. Like,
She can do things or not do things. And none of it, like she's good enough regardless of what she does or doesn't do. That your actions don't impact your worth.
Mm-hmm.
You are worthy just as you are. And you can keep doing those things, but it can come from a different place instead of like a need for worth. It's not about stopping doing those things. If you like doing them, do them. But do them because you enjoy it and you value it, not because you're not worthy.
Right. And I do all the things that I do specifically, right? You have the No Snooze podcast. You have me full-time as a deputy commissioner. And then you have me, co-founder of Action Cultivates Excellence, alongside my partner, Sean Degnan. So those three things have become like just so, they're a driving force in my life. They're not the driving force in my life, but they're
important.
Major purpose and
Right.
fulfillment. And me, as I'm like, identifying success and what it looks like, it's really doing the thing that makes me happy, but also does have some level of, I guess, inspiration or influence to others. I am my happiest self when I take somebody who believes in themselves a little bit, and they start to achieve new things and new levels in their life. Like that really does bring me a level of fulfillment. And then I want to, at the end, be like, I told you so.
It's a little risky though, isn't it?
It is.
That your happiness is contingent on whether or not they
I wouldn't say it's all contingent on that, because I'm doing the things that I love to do, right? Like I love podcasting. I love like serving in the community that I work in, being around men who have done the same nonsense mistakes that I've done in my life, and now we're building together. Like that's really dope to me.
I love that.
But also like I do like empowering people.
Absolutely. I think we're all in the helping profession, like being of service. Again, we're hardwired for connection. So that's going to feel good. And it's great that it feels good, because that's like our body's way of like, let's keep doing it and we keep helping others.
Mm-hmm.
And all of that can be not what your worth is dependent on, but adding to your, like, it's what you value. Like core values.
That's a great word.
Core values are everything. To me, we're doing EOS in our business. So it's Entrepreneur Operating System. And it's one of the exercises was developing your core values. And I probably drove my coach a little crazy, because I just took forever to really like figure it out, because I wanted to get it right. I wanted it, the core values to be like, not just about the business, but about how I am as a person, because I am my business, right? So I think really like living a life that's based on what you value is fulfilling, like so fulfilling.
I like that terminology, because I would definitely say that I'm doing what I value, what's important to me.
It's different
so I'll
than
start using that.
your worth being dependent on it.
Right.
See the
right.
difference? Yeah.
How many books have you written?
So I've done 2. One was like a treatment planner, like a mini book, so to speak.
Okay.
And then I wrote the EMDR Therapy Progress Journal. And I have a new workbook coming out that's called Burnt Out as Book, Burnout Survival Guide for Working Moms and Dads. Yeah.
Is it just for moms or for dads too?
It could be for parents. It's basically, it's another subset, being a parent.
Right.
And doing the kind of like helping work that we do, because you love helping people and then you go home and someone needs you.
Right.
And so that is a really delicate balance to figure out how to make sure you leave enough left for your kids. And that's something I'm so passionate about, that I have enough left for my husband, and some days I don't.
Sorry, bro.
Sorry,
No,
like
none for you today.
Yeah, and like I tell him all the time,
Not
like,
literally. I'm sorry.
even like, please, he'll say like, our couples therapy. It's like I don't feel like a priority. I'm like, some days it might not look like that.
Yeah.
You are always my priority, and we are in a very challenging time of life that we have 2 small children, and we both are running businesses. And you're my priority. Like, you are first in my heart. The first thing I see when I wake up and kiss good morning, and even if my actions don't reflect that, because, you know, I'm like sitting in the bathroom with Caroline for 30 minutes because we're potty training, it doesn't, and you're on the couch waiting for me, it doesn't mean I don't prioritize you. Mm-hmm. It's just potty training's a bitch.
Yep. All right, let's talk to the parents a little bit.
Yeah.
How do you talk to your kids about emotions, boundaries, and mental health? Yeah. And I guess maybe a tip or two for parents who would like to do that a little bit more.
Yeah. So my son is very sweet, and he's very sensitive like his mother. And he calls me a feelings doctor. So the biggest thing I do with him I find very important is not trying to fix any of his feelings. And he is all the time when he has a reaction, I call my mom and I'm like, I'm sorry. Because he's me when I was a kid, and I was like, I see now probably why it was so hard for you. I'm so sorry. But it can be really hard for a parent when my son has big reactions to things, like his emotions are intense. And I'll know sometimes, like, okay, and I don't do it. I'm not a perfect parent. Well, we all have our moments. But okay, you're angry. I don't try to apply logic to it, right? Just name it, name the feeling, and I'll hug him, and we'll co-regulate together. So I put my hand on his chest, he puts his hand on mine. I mean, he goes, I can't. I don't say it, I just keep breathing, and eventually his mirror neurons will catch mine, and he'll start calming down. And that will then lead to a deeper conversation of like, what's going on? But you can't even communicate when you're so dysregulated. Mm-hmm. So I'm so big on that, like naming his emotions, helping him co-regulate, helping him feel safe in his body. Because that's what happens for a lot of us, is that we feel these emotions so intensely, and we are in a society that doesn't accept it. So we begin to feel safe in our own bodies because we feel like our feelings are wrong. He's
more advanced than I am. I'll tell you that.
His teacher put on his report card. God. He is the most emotionally intelligent child I've worked with. I was like,
thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah,
yeah.
But so again, very selfishly relating this back to me, like I remember, if I'm angry, I don't like being told that I'm angry. Like obviously I'm angry.
Right.
And I can almost interpret it as like being condescending, mm-hmm. right? Like if I'm fired up and somebody's like, oh, you're angry.
Yeah.
Well, no shit.
Right. Of course I'm angry. I'll tell him, of course you're angry. You got told no. Nobody likes that.
Okay, so you're validating a little
Hell
bit.
Yeah.
See, I need a little more validation.
Hell yeah. We all do.
You hear that, Katie girl?
Yeah.
I need a little more validation, baby.
We all do. I don't know when validation became, I mean, it's definitely like overused, but like when it became such like a bad thing, like, oh, you need so much validation. Who doesn't? Who doesn't want to be told that they matter? What a concept, right?
Mm-hmm. I think it's about the way that you're told that, mm-hmm. For sure.
When people are condescending, it doesn't feel good.
Right.
Yeah. And if you, I have that internal bullshit detector where I can tell when someone's being inauthentic. Mm-hmm. I'm like, nah, fuck this guy.
Your detector would go off on me a little bit sometimes because I could definitely be a little condescending. Yeah.
But there's also triggers, right? We all have stuff that comes up, and it's just knowing that.
Yeah.
Knowing what those triggers are. But yeah, with our kids, my son, his big thing now, because there's a double-edged sword, right? Teaching him about feelings, but then him trying to weaponize them. And he's very smart. So it's always the hardest part as a parent is okay, I want to make sure I'm validating him, but I don't want to make sure he doesn't bulldoze me. Mm-hmm. So he's like, Mom, I'm not going to be happy. I go, that's okay. Happiness is optional. And my trainer taught me that. He says it all the time. Happiness is optional.
Would you say it's a choice? Happiness?
Yeah,
for sure, right?
Well, there are certain times too that happiness isn't appropriate. Like my dad died. I'm not going to be happy about that.
Yeah, you with the death and these laughing things. Funerals. Listen, if I pass, don't show up and start laughing at me. All right?
Dark humor is my thing. I love it. I'm a savage. But we're not supposed to be happy all the time. If we were happy all the time, we wouldn't appreciate the moments when we are.
Ooh, so this is another thing I struggle with sometimes. I'll ask my girlfriend, I'll be like, what's wrong? Because I always want her to be happy.
Yeah, that's not fair.
I know. So what do I do? Talk
Because
to
if
talk to
she's
somebody who
not
might be
okay-
relating to Dave Regina right now.
If she's not okay, are you not okay?
But it's not even that she's not okay, right? It's
Yeah.
just like she's like, Dave, I'm just chilling. Like, I'm fine.
She's
and I'm
calm.
like, but I want you to be on fire.
Well, you want her to match you, right?
Yeah.
You want her to get up.
Yes.
Yeah. Is that sustainable?
I don't know.
But if she's good, if she's like, Dave, I'm good.
She
I'm
is
chilling.
good too. I know.
Why is
but
that not okay?
It's weird for me.
Why?
I got issues.
No, you're probably just not used to dealing with someone who's calm. And your nervous system perceives it as a threat, even though it's not.
Yeah, it's like I want her. Claudio's back there killing me today. He's like, amen.
We seek what's comfortable.
Yeah.
Even if it's not. Like if you said your mom was, used drugs and everything, and she was more hypervigilant, even though that wasn't great, it's still comfortable because it's what you know. So when your girlfriend's calm, you're probably like, oh God,
Yeah.
this is unfamiliar. I don't know. And we always fear what we don't know. Always.
Is this relatable at all to like? I'm curious. Is it? Yeah. Because sometimes I almost feel nuts that I would like feel that way, and then when she's very good with her feelings, and she's a little bit more emotionally intelligent than I am. I'll give her a little bit. But when she's able to kind of sit in those moments and break it down and be like, babe, like I'm really fine. Like I'm not. What is it that you want from me? And I'm like, I don't know. I just want you to be happy. Like, and she's like, I am happy. I just don't like want to be walking around like this.
Yeah, there's happy, and then there's like manic.
Right. So maybe I'm a little manic. Maybe. This could be.
You might be hypervigilant. You're like that over functioning, right? Like a lot of us, and listen, I'm like the worst one sometimes. There are times where like I have high functioning anxiety and times where I'm calm and chilling.
Yep.
But there are times where like the secondary gain of that hypervigilant anxiety is that I get shit done, right? So it reinforces that I want to keep feeling that way. And then I finally got to a point in my own journey where I'm like, I am seeking out stressful situations because it's helping me stay hijacked so I could perform.
Can you give me an example of that?
So like seeking conflict with my husband, like starting fights. Oh,
Really?
I'm a fucking bitch.
Really?
He
Like, yo, let's
deserves
fight, bro.
I would always just be like looking for like something to, to start a fight about. Or, sometimes like you just pay attention more to like negative things. And it's hardwired. We're hardwired to attend to the negative because it's a survival response. But there comes a point in time when you start saying, like you're cognitively saying, yeah, I want to become, I want to be this. But then you're noticing that your behavior is not congruent with that. And I had that moment of, okay, I'm wanting to be calm and all this, but I get dysregulated when I'm calm. So I'm seeking out stress. I'll do like heavy like squats in the gym, all this stuff, like, and just seeking out like clean. I'm an anxious cleaner. I'll clean like crazy.
Like cleans in the gym or actually like cleaning?
Both. I love a good clean.
Okay.
But cleaning at
cleaning.
the house. Yeah, I clean my shower with a toothbrush like a maniac.
I'm a little weird like that too.
Yeah, 100%.
Like I follow my daughter around cleaning things up.
Yes.
And like,
I'm
it's
on
like
my
a
third
cough and
Roomba.
things. Wow.
Yeah, on my third one so far.
Wow. Okay.
But then I thought back, like, okay, well, when I was a kid, my mom would always scream when things weren't when things were messy. So if I kept it clean, I wouldn't get in trouble. So that like pattern, and then I stay in that mode because it keeps me safe. And then you start seeking out like behaviors. Like no one had a gun to my head to tell me to clean. I also just like things clean.
Right.
And then my husband will tell you I'm a slob because I am like that type A and type B. Everything has its place, but it's never in its spot. But that's just, mom life. But once you make that like connection that, okay, I'm seeking out things that are keeping me in this state. Let me try, and this is where mindfulness comes in, attending to things that are not that. And then riding the discomfort wave of that because it's really uncomfortable at first to do things that we're unfamiliar with, to be still, to be calm. Because in the past, like it would be that calm was not safe. If I'm calm, I'm going to get, Sicilian, right? The heat-seeking slipper, or the wire hanger. Got all those as a kid. So my therapist said, she was like, you had to be a moving target. So now, if I sit calm, I'm not going to get hurt. Nothing's going to get me.
How, I guess, can people in general model healthy stress management without pretending that it's perfect in life?
Say
right?
more.
Right? So, like, okay. I sometimes, even in my head, I pretend that, like, because I'm at where I'm at, I'm like, it's good, really good in life, like, right?
Right.
But also, although it's really good in my life, I still know that, like, there's so many things that need to be a little bit better, right?
Okay.
And, like, I don't know at times if I'm managing my stress the right way, instead of, like, just kind of portraying that things are perfect. Does that make sense?
It's the concept of both end, right? So you
both
can
end?
be both handling things well and knowing that there's a lot going on. And what you portray, I think that's also, like, dependent on your environment, right? If you're, like, in a business meeting, you don't want to be like, oh,
I'm the worst salesman ever.
yeah, I suck. Like, it's like, you ever seen the movie Liar Liar? He's like, I'm kind of upset about a bad experience.
So I'm not a movie guy, but I have seen Liar Liar.
It's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's a great movie.
That's a great movie.
I quote it all the time. It's literally the best. So you're not going to, like, go into a court and be like, well, this is what happened to me last night. But as long as you have a person or persons, like, you're safe people.
Yeah.
To say, like, listen, this is what is going well in my life, and these are the things that I'm carrying that are heavy. And both of those things can exist at the same time. They're not mutually exclusive. It's not black and white. It doesn't have to be all good or all needing to improve on.
Yeah, this could be a general statement, but I would say guys struggle more with
Absolutely.
that than women. We have a tough time at times with individuals because we have a tagline, bridging the gap between masculinity and vulnerability. And we have guys. What?
I'm laughing because even that bridging the gap between, like, I love that because there shouldn't be a gap, right? Men should be able to be vulnerable. Women should be able to be vulnerable.
Right.
Like, all human beings are vulnerable. Because guess what? As kids, babies, we were all babies at one time.
Yes.
And all babies are vulnerable. It doesn't change as, like, you're still a vulnerable human.
Yeah. But we get guys who aren't ready to, commit to the community because they're so uncomfortable with the things that make them vulnerable. And then they'll say, like, oh, it's a bunch of pussies getting in a room. And it's like, one will whoop your ass because we have 58 people that do jujitsu and Muay Thai up in there.
Yep.
And we're not there to just talk about the problems, right?
Right.
But any dude that I know that's successful, whether he's got something in the closet or just a negative thought that he's battling, we all battle things.
Always.
So we're there as a community to kind of, like, help work through those things, but keep
Absolutely.
moving the needle forward. It's
Right.
not like a sit back and, let's, talk about our problems all day long.
Yeah.
It's like we acknowledge it and then we take action on it.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, like, guys, obviously we struggle with that a little bit more. And it's very empowering, though, to be able to work through these issues among other men.
Absolutely.
Because it makes you
then
feel
don't
normal.
Yes.
Yeah.
You don't feel alone. Like, oh, am I the only one? Am I just a really sensitive guy and there's no one else like me? No, you're a normal human. And it's nice to be in community with like-minded people who understand your experience and have the same one. That's so powerful. People heal in groups like that. It's nice and validating to know that it's not just you.
Right. What's your experience with addiction?
So addiction runs in my family. It's interesting. One of 10 cousins, and 3 of us are in the mental health field. So my cousin Julian and I both are therapists. My cousin Christopher is graduated and he's doing research and stuff now. So I always saw addiction as it was always very scary to me and something I was.
Like drug addiction, alcohol addiction?
Yeah, my uncles were heroin addicts. They dealt out of the apartment downstairs that my the houses in the Bronx, the apartment underneath upstairs. My Uncle Johnny was dealing drugs with my grandmother upstairs.
With
my
grandma?
And my grandma, I'm pretty sure she knew. My grandma's the typical Italian grandma. They were like, the boys can do no wrong. And my mother was like the scapegoat for everything. And, I think that now as an adult, like, so I saw like substance abuse as something that was very scary. And my mom did a really great job of protecting us from it. Anytime there was something, she would just get us out of there and so forth. But now seeing it, I've had enough space to see addiction's not the problem, it's the solution, right? It's the nervous system's way of trying to find a way to cope with, because they don't have any other way to cope, especially men. No one teaches men that that's a feeling. Notice that feeling in your body, and that's okay, and that's normal. So what do we eventually do? We get addicted to substances or things or behaviors to numb that feeling because we were taught that feeling's not safe. So seeing that now is really addiction is trauma with that as the behavior. And it's hard because it's, we said this yesterday, a friend of mine is in recovery and she's just a beautiful human being. And we were both talking and we were saying, it's so sad with addicts because they're the hardest ones to love at times and they're the ones who need it the most. And that just always stays with me. But I've seen how it can change families. But it's interesting because, my mom didn't get addicted to substances and stuff, but she got addicted to ignoring her feelings. And now she has physical health issues. So again, addiction's not the problem. It's learning how to cope with our feelings. That's the real solution instead of a behavior like gambling or, work. My husband's addicted to work. That's his addiction. Not healthily either. Love him to death. Glad he's productive, but I'm always like, we're fine. You don't have to work so much. You're not going to die if you stop working.
I'm curious, from your experience now, what would you say to your uncles?
So it's hard because one is passed and one is still alive and still struggles. And he has some cognitive deficits from an accident that he was in. I don't know what I would say. I mean, he was very sensitive growing up. And I probably would say to him, that wasn't a bad thing. That you were right to be sensitive and you grew up in a family that didn't acknowledge that as a strong suit. And there was nothing wrong with you. I'd probably tell him that. Yeah.
And now somebody who's listening to this podcast and decides right now that they're going to put the substance down, what would you say to them to start their journey?
Get support. Don't do it alone because we're not meant to heal alone. You went through the trauma alone, right? We get traumatized from being alone with our stressful experiences. Don't go through the healing alone. The healing, the togetherness, the community is the healing, is the solution. So don't do it alone. And that wanting to put that down, honor your drive to take care of yourself and seek support.
I love that. Where do you want to get better in your life?
I think my addiction, I think, is this constantly the self-improvement, like you were saying. I'm always seeing what needs to be looked at and evolved. I think right now in my life, I want to be comfortable with what is and not need. I have all these plans of things I want to do. If you saw my Trello board and all these business ideas, oh my God, I could take over the world if I wanted to. And so what I want right now is to not give into the urgency to do that so I could be a mom. I love my kids. They are. I'll cry. They are my world and my joy. And seeing them experience the world through their eyes is so beautiful because this moment, all this is all we have. All those projects and stuff, you walk and get hit by a bus tomorrow. And at the end of the day, I don't give a shit what I do, this and that. I care about how my kids feel and how they see me more than what I care about anybody else, how they see me. That's what I want. I want to stop performing, stop over-functioning, and just be a mommy and take care of my babies. I love them.
I can relate to that so much.
Yeah.
I feel very blessed myself that God has put me in this position, with this level of emotional intelligence now.
Right.
Because my daughter is at such a delicate age.
Yeah.
You know, and even the growth from her being 1.5, 2 years old to her now being 4, almost 5.
Yeah.
I've had tremendous growth, and I'm just so grateful I'm at where I'm at because I'm able to sit down with her and enjoy just hugging on her and love and being present in that moment because it goes very fast.
So fast. And they're pure joy, aren't they?
Yes.
The way they laugh and the way that they're just, all they know is joy. And it's beautiful to see the world again through their eyes, right? Nothing heals you more than becoming a parent, which confronts you to work through your own childhood shit. Yeah. When I was pregnant with my son, my therapist was like, I think some family origin stuff is getting kicked up. We should probably work on it. I was like, okay, let's do it. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. We covered a lot today.
Yeah.
We covered a lot today. But let's finish with one science-backed tool or technique that you teach to your clients that anyone can start using today.
Yeah, love that. Your breath is something that's always with you, no matter where you go. How you breathe, it shapes how you feel. So if you're depressed, don't do long exhale. If you're feeling depressed, you want a bigger inhale, shorter exhale, because the in-breath is what activates the sympathetic nervous system, versus if you're anxious, you want a shorter inhale and a longer exhale, because the exhale activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the body's rest and digest. So that's knowing how to breathe dependent on how you feel is really important. If you're tired, do that kind of breathing, because that will get your heart rate up and give you more energy, versus if you're hijacked and you're tense, almost like you're letting the air out of a balloon. Yeah.
So the last breath you did, that is like Tony Robbins' grounding technique that he utilizes, and I've been incorporating a lot. And I was never big on breath work. Again, I thought it was like foo-foo. Stop talking to me about your breath work. Like I don't want to take your breath work class or anything like that. And now I find myself doing 3 sets of 10. You know, just and really waking myself up. And I pair that with, and this is all in hopes of like neuroplasticity, right?
Yes.
Like a lot of us think that the brain is static, but it's not. Neuroplasticity is constantly changing. So brushing my teeth with my left hand, super awkward.
Love that.
Right?
I do that all the time.
Super awkward, but like really helpful because I don't want my brain to just know what I'm doing. So I'm like starting to dive into these things, and specifically that breath technique, 3 sets of 10 is a clinical thing.
Absolutely. For anyone who doesn't believe it, if you wear an Apple Watch or a Fitbit, turn your heart rate monitor on and watch the heart rate change as your breathing changes. That's biofeedback. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, but I love the changing.
Oh, it's so awkward. So I'm terrible.
Terrible, right?
My daughter's like, Dad, why are you brushing like that? I'm like, I can't do it.
Drooling out of one side of your mouth.
But I'm still telling her, stop spitting so loud.
Exactly. I could hear it. I could hear everything. I could hear like a pin drop.
Literally.
Yeah.
And oh God, that's
you could drive like whenever, if you go the same way to work or something every morning, drive a different way. Anytime you do something different, it causes your neurons to go, and they wake up and they create a new neural pathway. Learning a new skill, learning how to play a guitar, do something new. Routine's helpful. It keeps us functioning and keeps things consistent, but you also want to keep your brain sharp, and that's learning new things, doing new things, so we can make new connections in our neurons.
Is there anything else that you want to share or touch on before we wrap up the episode today? I always like to give people an opportunity to think about that, because you'll be driving home and then you'll be like, oh God, I wish I said this.
Yeah, I'm trying to think we talked about so many.
I know. It was a really good conversation. I hope everyone enjoyed Dave's therapy session today. I really hope they did.
Well, we do have a team of awesome therapists in our office. Sean is one of them. Our office is in Scarsdale. It's called Peaceful Living Mental Health Counseling.
Yeah, let everybody know where they can, if you want to go there. But I'm asking you again, one more time, is there something you want to touch on that we did not touch on?
I just the word relationships just keeps coming into my head.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about it.
Relationships are so important. And
intimate relationships or friendships? All relationships.
All relationships.
Okay.
I think my biggest thing I love to teach people is stop personalizing stuff. So many times.
Meaning what?
So if somebody's upset, did I do something wrong? Maybe you did, but if that person who is already a people pleaser it's like, oh, I can't even show that I'm not okay because then they're going to feel like they did something wrong. That's that codependency cycle. So instead of like immediately making it about you when you see something, or if like someone flips you off when you're driving, how could they do that to me? But maybe they're just having a bad day. Don't let someone else's nervous system hijack yours. So that's like what I'm very big on. Don't personalize it, because the way we personalize stuff, if we start getting into like, oh, I'm this, I'm that, that's our story. And then we're making it about us and trying to get them to figure out how they affected us, but then they're alone in their experience, especially in intimate relationships. So if your partner's upset, well, he can't do this to me, she can't do that to me. Why are they doing that? What do they need in this moment? How can we regulate before we communicate?
It's so hard to be unselfish. And Claudio is gulping loud right now. Oh my God, the big gulp. Jesus.
So thirsty.
Jesus.
Love it.
I know. I wish his microphone was on here. It's very hard to be unselfish in relationships, you know? And I did that as a joke, right?
Yeah.
To talk about Claudio there. But like literally I don't know, like magnified times 100. And he's just drinking normally.
Have you ever heard of misophonia?
I have that, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't even know what it is, but I have it.
Yeah, but if it like, there's all these names for stuff, but if we had access to a functional MRI machine, threw you in there, your brain would probably be lit up in the limbic system and probably decreased activity in the prefrontal cortex.
Do you do brain exams or no?
I wish I could.
You don't? Okay.
I so want, like...
I want to dive into that. Like,
so Doc Amen does it at the Amen Clinic. I want to do it. I'm like, let's go together. Like they're like $3,000, but I'm like, whatever. Like I've spent money on
we'll go
dumber
next
shit.
year.
Yeah. I'm like, I've spent money on worse stuff, right?
She's like, let's do it together.
Like,
They're $3,000. I'll see you later.
Yeah. They're super expensive, but they show the activity in the brain and stuff.
Yep.
And you could see, and then they'll ask you questions and see what lights up and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, but I know I just mentioned that it's just so hard to like not be selfish in relationships.
Yeah.
So hard.
Yeah. Well, because we have needs, right? And we don't want to be selfless either. It's the optimal level. Like I would say, the goal in relationships is interdependence. I don't want to be codependent on you that I need you. I don't want to be independent that
you have
we
to
don't
want
work.
each other. You don't need each other. You should be able to function.
Correct. I tell my husband all the time.
Autonomously?
Autonomously, good word. I tell my husband all the time, I love you to death. I don't need you. I'll survive just fine on my own.
But I want you though.
But I want you here because I love you. And even when I was telling him, like, even when I want to throw a shoe at you, I still love you. That's how you know it's love. Like,
what's your favorite thing about Eric? Here you go. Alley-oop.
His willingness to work on himself. He loves therapy. His willingness that no matter how hard.
How could he not? First of all, even if he doesn't like it, he loves it now because he's married to you.
Yeah. But I love his ability to self-reflect, even if it's not always like, no one's perfect. But even when we have a rupture in our attachment, there's always the repair afterwards, and that's what makes a bond stronger. It's like when you break a bone, it's stronger when it heals. Relationships are the same way. Ruptures are inevitable, but it's the repair that makes the relationship stronger. And so he's always good for a repair. Even like yesterday, we were like arguing about something, whatever, and he still kisses me before he leaves for work.
Oof, that's tough.
Yeah, I have a hard time with that.
Yeah, I'll be like, mwah,
I know.
Make sure I bang you on the forehead.
I'm like, yeah, whatever. But he'll still lean in.
Hard kiss.
Yeah.
Wow,
I'm just like, don't speak to me.
Yes.
Like I'm ruthless. And what I love about him is his ability to put up with me.
Wow. Shout out to Eric. Great guy. Love him already.
Guy. Yeah, he's the best.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, I would just want to say thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
I think this conversation is needed. I love the male-female dynamic.
Absolutely. Totally.
Even more than, I thought I would, because I typically talk to men about this type of stuff, but I do, I value your knowledge and your expertise in the field. So if you would be kind enough to let everybody know where they can find you and connect with you, your practice, your book.
Absolutely. So we have a private practice in Scarsdale called Peaceful Living Mental Health Counseling. We have a handful of therapists with varying specialties, and we're all trained in EMDR therapy. And our website is peacefullymentalhealthcounseling.com. We are available in person, which I know a lot of people still aren't, which is shocking to me. But every time someone calls, they're like, oh, you're in person? We're like, yeah, come on down and come see us. We are available virtually as well. And then I have my EMDR coach, my Instagram page, my website, the EMDR coach, where I have resources. I have a lot of free stuff on my website.
Is that your Instagram handle?
Yep, it's at @the_EMDR_coach. And there's always videos on there about trauma healing, some of my snarky, dark humors mixed in there, mom life, information about EMDR, how to heal, normalizing things that we all need to be normalized for and haven't been. So that's all there. And then my books are there too, the EMDR Therapy Progress Journal and the treatment planning templates. And I think that's it. Lots of fun stuff. Yeah.
Thank you so much again for coming
me.
on. Guys, this show continues to grow because of you, the listener. Top 10% podcast on Spotify in 2024. We're looking to crack that top 5 this year. So we just want to say thank you. I want to thank Dana again. I encourage you guys to follow and support what she's doing. You can shop the latest merch at nosnoozeshop.com. And until next time, stop snoozing.
Get up and get after it.
And go get a therapist too.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for tuning in. That's another Epi in the books. You can follow us on Instagram at No Snooze Podcast and leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, No Snooze. Shop the latest merch at nosnoozeshop.com. Come on.